this is an update on the FBI raid in Fulton County. I want to play this clip and I want you to talk about it.
County cannot get its ballots back yet. A federal judge ordered the county to mediation with the Department of Justice over the FBI elections raid. Channel 2 Action News was there as the feds seized box after box from the elections hub in South Fulton County last month. Channel 2's Richard Elliott is live at the state capitol, where one legal expert says that decision leaves those ballots unprotected, Richard.
Yeah, that federal court ruling came down very late last night. Federal court judge wants both sides to go to mediation to decide the fate of those ballots. But that one legal expert says the decision actually leaves those ballots unprotected. This was the scene nearly 1 month ago when the FBI raided the Fulton County elections hub and seized 700 boxes of 2020 ballots. Fulton County sued to get them back. A federal court judge has now ordered the Department of Justice and Fulton County to mediation to determine the fate of those ballots. Quote, the court believes it's best for the parties to work toward a mutual agreeable resolution before receiving additional evidence. But Georgia State University law professor Clark Cunningham doesn't think that's a good idea.
No, it's very puzzling. When you have a basic constitutional rights at stake like this isn't a hit and run lawsuit. This is nothing for mediation. This should be dealt with immediately by a judge.
Cunningham agrees with the 8 former U.S. attorneys and acting U.S. attorneys general who filed this brief declaring their belief that the search warrant used in the raid was itself unconstitutional.
This is a situation where I think every expert who's reviewed the case has come to the same conclusion that I have, which is that the Trump administration has egregiously violated the Constitution in seizing these records from Fulton County.
Cunningham said the judge should have ordered the federal government to preserve the documents and not review them. With the ruling in this case, he says there's nothing keeping the government from going through those ballots.
To preserve the constitutional rights of the voters of Georgia, these documents should be under court control right now without having the government do a fishing expedition, look at voters' personal records, make copies, all that sort of thing.
You know what? That's so much BS. That is so much BS. I know as much about the Constitution, if not more, than this so-called expert does. I looked at the warrants. They're legitimate. They're public records, by the way. And you've got the ultimate governmental entity in the United States. The federal government has them in its custody, under its control, under its supervision. They are not in jeopardy of being altered. And since they're public records, why is this segment of Georgia government objecting to them being reviewed in the bright light of day unless they cheated? This isn't like this is an individual who's getting his or her rights violated by the mass sum of the people of the state of Georgia or the people of the United States of America. This is the sovereign entity of Georgia, Fulton County. This is the sovereign entity of the United States of America, and combined with the sovereign state of Georgia. And they want to look at the public records, and it's a simple matter of get the hell out of the way and let people examine them and do an independent audit. I agree that it should not be subject to mediation. What ought to happen is the federal judge ought to say the court is appointing a body of accountants, a team of accountants. Plaintiffs may appoint a team of accountants. Defendants or respondents may appoint a team of accountants. Let's everybody do an independent audit, compare numbers and see what's happening. That's what they did down ultimately in Florida with that 2000 debacle between George W. Bush and Al Gore. And interestingly, all three parties agreed that Al Gore got 63% of almost 63% of the Florida popular vote, which should have been the Electoral College for him. It didn't work out that way, and I'm not trying to take sides. That's just a factual basis. But see, that kind of thing is inconvenient to somebody's narrative, which is these madmen tried to corrupt the election by falsely claiming that something was wrong. But you see, they've been pushing that narrative, that lie, for quite a few years. And what happens is when the light of day hits and independent folk count it and it doesn't come up, ooh, wowee, whoopee. You just discredited yourself in a massive way. Now, open the records up. This thing about mediating, the people are entitled to look at it. Since this impacts the federal system, the feds are entitled to look at it too. It's a claim of violation of federal laws dealing with people's voting rights, civil rights, and also some other things that are going on here that the feds have standing to investigate. So let's look at them. See what's going on. This isn't somebody's private business where they have a right to deal with Fourth Amendment search and seizure issues as applied to individuals, or Fifth Amendment rights dealing with self-incrimination. You cannot compel someone to be a witness against themselves. This is two sovereign governmental entities where the ultimate aim is the will of the people, the best interest of the people, and information that should properly be freely and openly in front of the people, and somebody's trying to keep it quiet to keep their lies from being revealed. That is really straight out of the National Socialist Workers Party. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, the acronym is NAZI, or out of the playbook of the Communist Party, which is now defunct, and what used to be the Soviet Union, and it's marginal in the People's Republic of China and elsewhere, North Korea. But, you know, it is what it is, and that's how this works. Get the hell out of the way and let somebody start counting.
So I want to highlight this real quick because it says Fulton County officials argue FBI agent misled judge to seize ballots from 2020 election. Did an FBI agent deliberately mislead a federal judge to secure the warrant that initiated the Bureau's unprecedented seizure of 2020 election records from election facility in Fulton County? That's an explosive question that county officials are now attempting to answer in a lawsuit to force the Department of Justice to return the sensitive election records, which included original ballots.
Okay, time out. What's sensitive about them?
Right. They're claiming people names and addresses. The people
Well, the judge can simply gag any release of that information, so it's not an issue. And they're not trying to figure out who voted for who. They want to see what the count is. What does this one say? What does this one say? What does this one? And get the accountants to add it up. Let's see who was telling the truth. This is nothing but a sham by the Democratic Party in Fulton County, Georgia, trying to cover up for something that they did wrong.
Right. It says that at the county's request, a Trump-appointed federal judge has called for a court hearing Friday to force FBI Special Agent Hugh Raymond Evans to testify about the extraordinary affidavit he presented to the court to justify the FBI's raid.
And what's extraordinary about it?
I have no idea. The FBI
That's what I'm saying. There is nothing extraordinary about it except somebody's what they call puffing, exaggeration, or misconstruing plain language. It's like, look, these guys prosecuted all of these people. They deprived this huge number of several million Americans of the rightful selection of an electoral college board that kept us from getting a president, that got somebody in that set up 911 2.0, that set up bringing in cartels, drug dealers, rapists, murderers, psychopaths, terminally ill people who have incurable diseases to spread, subjected us to all sorts of foreign invasion, embezzlement, misappropriation of public funds, and you want to sit there and talk about they're too sensitive because somebody may see somebody's vote They aren't even doing that. They can even redact who did it. See, that's one thing they can do, redact it so nobody will know. And
Now,
you still get the point. What is the actual vote count and were we lied to?
and remember, in December, it came out, Fulton County admits to verifying 350,000 votes in the 2020 without poll workers' signatures.
Yeah. And that means, guess what? Somebody could have just snuck them into the pile, and there's no certification process where somebody says, I swear under oath, or I take oath or affirmation that the following is true. Those came in properly. No, nobody can do that. See, so you have to trust them, and they are not trustworthy. They're accusing the other side of lying, but it looks like they are. A snake is a snake. And you can call it by all kinds of other things, but if you want to figure out a way to start saying there are no snakes here when there are, you can say, oh my God, somebody may see a snake with no clothes on, and oh my God, that's embarrassing to the snake. They don't wear clothes anyway, last I checked, but that's kind of the specious argument.
But with the 350 votes without poll worker signatures,
350,000.
350,000, yes. Wouldn't that give the DOJ cause to?
Yes, it would. Exactly. There's all kinds of probable cause here. It's like you can even allege, based on the sworn statements and accounts submitted pursuant to the election process, the alleged certification was that the following was the vote count. Unfortunately, in the interim, we have 350,000 ballots at least that were suspect, and that would establish probable cause. And this is a civil matter. It's not criminal, by the way, where all of these rules against search and seizure apply. It's not criminal. See, under a civil process, you can compel the other side to give evidence against itself, but not in a criminal case. And that's not a criminal case here. It is not devolved into evidence secured from an individual that might be used to prosecute a given individual. These are matters of public record that these individuals have no claim to be able to restrict. See, the whole resistance is specious. They're treating this as though the ignorant public won't pick up on, no, this isn't a criminal prosecution against an individual. This is a civil action by one government against another, and these are public records. And in a civil action, you can't just conceal them. You can demand discovery. It's part of your action, and the other side has to comply with it. And as far as this goes, there is, from reading the affidavit that went along, there's ample basis under traditional law to issue a search warrant. And that's exactly what happened. And it's been safely in the FBI custody, or the Department of Justice through the FBI, ever since. And it was not when it was under the custody and control of Georgia. And we also have all kinds of indicia, including some guilty pleas, or at least one dealing with election fraud. So that kind of establishes an element of the probable cause in the first place.
I want to play.
Wow, wee whoopee. Nice tale, but ain't buying it.
I actually did a reaction to this, but I wanted to show it to you to get your take on it. So it's Senator Warnock. He holds a hearing with the Fulton County leaders.
And to Capitol Hill, where Fulton County Commissioner Mo Ivory, who we should note has recently launched a campaign for Fulton County Commission chairperson, was on the Hill today just moments ago. This is all happening within the last half an hour or so, talking with and answering questions from U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock, a Democrat, about the recent FBI raid of a Fulton County election facility. Here is some of their conversation.
What did they tell you that they were doing? How did they explain their presence in Fulton County?
There was very little conversation. They told us to step back. They were here to get everything related to 2020, and that they would go in and get what they needed, and there was very little conversation.
Right. Now, this was an FBI raid, correct?
Correct.
And we all saw it, but I just want to establish that for the record. This is a raid by the FBI.
Yes.
But Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, was on the scene.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you know what she was doing there? You saw her yourself.
Yes, I did.
Do you know what she was doing there?
I don't know why she was there.
Okay. Did the FBI tell you where they were taking the ballots or what they were going to do with them?
No.
Since the raid, have you received any information about how the ballots are being handled or what measures are in place to ensure that no one is tampering with those ballots?
No.
What types of sensitive voter data were contained in the boxes of ballots and other materials taken by the FBI?
The materials included were the actual ballots, recap sheets, results tapes, and absentee ballot envelopes that contained personally identifiable information.
Right. As a commissioner, as a servant of the people of Fulton County, are you concerned about what the administration will do with such sensitive data from Fulton County voters?
Yes.
Thank you so very much for your testimony. I have demanded an explanation from Pam Bondi about this raid. So far, I have not heard back from her. She has not offered one, but we'll keep demanding answers because if we don't stand up now, they won't stop with Fulton County. We saw this in Minneapolis, Minnesota, when Attorney General Bondi attempted to seize the state voters' roll in exchange for the withdrawal of ICE agents. They literally said, you want ICE out of your community? Hand over your voter rolls. Mm-hmm. Hand over your voter rolls if you want to end the occupation of your city. And I call it that because there are 600 police officers, over 3,000 federal agents. This is their project. They are already trying to cast doubt on the 2026 elections. Commissioner Ivory, what keeps you up at night when you think about the midterm elections, when you think about the seizing of voter rolls or voter records in Fulton County, a ransom note from the Attorney General to the people of Minneapolis? Does that bother you at all as you think about the midterm elections?
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing is a preview of what could happen nationally, which is attempted takeovers from multiple angles. I worry about the election workers who are everyday people coming to work to support their families and feel intimidated just going to work every day. The Fulton County Republican Party attempted to nominate 2 known election deniers to our Board of Registrations and Elections as a part of this. It's a complete movement. So what keeps me up at night is knowing that we in Fulton County are able and have secure, fair, and free elections. But voter suppression is a tactic that keeps people at home, and we have to fight to make sure that people know that their vote is important and that they have the right to exercise it.
Who is being intimidated to stay home? This guy is not very good at what he does, but then he's never been a lawyer and never been in a courtroom, and he's fairly new to the legislative chambers of Congress, in this case, the Senate. He's not doing a very good job. He's a charlatan. He mouths off of that little political dogma that they're talking about right across the street from his church in plain open view is one of the worst cesspools and hellholes you can find in the United States, packed with unfortunate homeless people. And he actually is advocating to give the funds and the resources that should be going to the constituents he's looking at, but instead are being given to foreign invaders. He ought to be ashamed of himself. Now, wowee whoopee. So all that needs to be done to protect all of what they are sanctimoniously lying about is to redact any references in any public documentation that gets released as part of what is a public lawsuit, or order the parties, which the court can do, not to divulge any identifying remarks, circumstances, addresses, or names. That'll take care of the problem right there. No big deal. These things happen all the time. Where has he been? Well, oh yeah, he's ignorant. He doesn't deal with these things. He's just in his belief system thing. He doesn't deal with facts. That's not been his career. Hardcore analytical application of law to facts. He is unaware that these things are relatively routine. But the problem is we haven't had a nationwide situation where people came in and stole an election like they did in 2020, which is what we're finding out about.